You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast, Season 7, Episode 281.
Orcas attacking boats, model Embryo Heartbeat, and cucumber sandwich.
That's right. Let that sink in.
No.
All right, so here we are. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And if it's your very first time listening, we do appreciate you here. And if you're a long-time listener, welcome back. Good to see you. Good to talk at you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. So this particular podcast is brought to you by Greg and Omi.
Okay.
And our Patreons.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's all good. So anyway, here's the deal. If you'd like to call into the show and leave a message or have something that you would like to speak about, leave us a message or share something, you could do that.
Yeah, that phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
That's right. And so if you leave a message, we'll play it on the show as long as we hear it. That has to be our disclaimer because a lot of times, I can't say a lot of times, but, hey.
We've had instances where we don't always get the notification.
Yeah. And I feel like a jerk when we say that kind of thing because our bandwidth is better.
Yeah.
But still not, not 2017 standards from where we were to now, but that's all right. Because we are broadcasting our podcast from deep in the woods in western North Carolina from our underground bunker at an undisclosed or any location.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes we find stuff we like to talk about off the internets, and sometimes we find stuff that's in popular news and we like to talk about it. Sometimes we find stuff from our friends and we're like, what? That's crazy. And sometimes those friends will say, hey, look, have you heard about this? And it's just like, yes, we've all heard about it. And then I don't pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. And then I go back and look and go, okay, this is more interesting than my immediate dismissal, right? Yes, of course I've heard about it. Well, let me look.
Yeah.
And, so for some of those things, it's kind of like it has to happen for a sustained period before my interest gets piqued.
Or being the skeptic that I am, I'm always like, wait and see.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, one thing happens, you're like,
Yeah.
Two things happen, you're like, okay, could just be, then three things, and you're like, And then four things, you're like, yeah, it's definitely a scam.
Yeah.
And then the fifth thing, you're like, well, let me take a look. Now, let me get my shoes on and go take a look, right? So, yeah, and this is something we're going to talk about. And it's the whole orcas attacking things. And I should be interested in it. I was in the Navy. I hunted submarines by sound on destroyers. I was not a bubblehead. So if you're like, were you a bubblehead? No, I was not. So we used to listen to stuff like whales and popcorn shrimp and all sorts of other crazy stuff, making noises in the ocean. We called it biologics.
Popcorn shrimp?
Yeah. If you have a school of them, when they swim, the way shrimps swim, they don't just like wiggle their tails. They kind of like take their whole body and convulse it and use the bottom tail to kind of push them around when they're swimming. Mm-hmm. And when they're in a school or a larger mass of them, like krill or something like that, when they go and they pop their bodies to swim, it creates noise.
Like popcorn?
And it sounds like popcorn.
Huh.
Hence the name and the term popcorn shrimp.
I wondered if that was an actual term because earlier today I had to look up what a group of raccoons was called. Mm-hmm. And it's like a gaze. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I just looked up what a group of shrimps was called.
And?
A colony or a troop.
Yeah, we don't call them that.
Yeah.
So.
Just call them a small order of popcorn shrimp.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the
podcast.
Okay. All right, so anyway, before we get rolling into the podcast, we'd kind of like to tell you about a couple different things. You can call us. I don't know if we did the phone number or not because I wasn't paying attention. Did we do the phone number?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And you can actually get a hold of us on Facebook or another place like that. Anywhere you get your social medias, we're there. Mm-hmm. However we respond, it kind of depends on the platform because to me, Twitter is kind of useless. And it's always been kind of useless for me.
Yeah.
So we do check it occasionally, but Facebook seems to be where everybody wants to take a look. We're also on Instagrams and TikToks, YouTubes, wherever you want to get a hold of us. And we also have Patreon, so you can kind of check that out too. Yes. And as we talked about on our last podcast, our buddy Bobby B has a book where he talks about past lives and past lives journeying, so you can kind of see what you may or may not have been in your past life, if you even believe in such a thing.
Yeah, and we've got a link
It's a
to
method.
that.
Yeah, it's a method you can try on your own, and went into it as a skeptic and kind of got some different ideas upon some things. I'm like, it's something. So you should check it out. It's actually very interesting. So we do have a link and takes you to Amazon. We can kind of check that out. So. Yeah. All right, so we had a listener contact us a while ago, and I never really was able to use the voicemail.
Yeah.
Because it just basically said unable to translate, and it just wouldn't play.
Okay.
Which, that does happen because we're using Google Voice. It works normally, but sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you're at the whim of whatever Google says. But Google Voice. Well, I checked today, as I do check periodically, just to see. And, there was a message.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going to go and see if we can figure out how to play it. All right, you ready?
Sure.
All right, here we go. As I do some clickety-clacking. All right, here we go. This is from Simon, by the way. So if you're listening, Simon, and, you sent this voicemail like months ago, we hear you, brother.
This is Simon Earl calling from Marion, North Carolina. I wanted to say I saw your car parked down here in Marion and wanted to let you know about the Brown Mountain Lights. I assume you probably already know about them. But Wiseman's View is where to go to see them. Pop up every once in a while. They came up last night for a little bit, not bright. Mostly just the orange flare lights going along the gorge, but nothing going up the mountain. But yeah, ask around town. You'll find a lot of cool stuff around here about it. Later, man. Pop up every once in a while. They came up last night for a little bit, not bright. Mostly just the orange flare lights going along the gorge, but nothing going up the mountain. But yeah, ask around town. You'll find a lot of cool stuff around here about it. Later, man.
So I wanted to repeat that part because of what he basically said. Go to Wiseman's View and you can take a look and you can see him coming up along the gorge. Mm-hmm. And he said that he's seen basically the orange ones this time.
Yeah.
And it kind of struck me because we've gone and we've seen them before, and I've seen multiple colors, and there's been occasions where we only see one color or think we only see one color, right?
Yeah.
Well, people around here that have seen it and have seen the Brown Mountain Lights multiple times, they're like, yeah, I only seen the orange ones this time. I've seen yellow ones. It's no big deal.
The white and the blue ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some red ones one time, and they get excited about the colors that they haven't seen before. And that's what makes this whole phenomenon with the Brown Mountain Lights more than what people think and more than what some scientists say.
Yes.
Because, the variables change so often. And if it was a repeating phenomena based off of, let's just say that if you believe it, the Brown Mountain Lights are somehow or another related to a repeating sort of psychic or paranormal phenomena, should be relatively the same if you subscribe to the stone tape theory or anything like that. And it's not.
Yeah.
It varies. Some see small ones. Some see big ones. You know what I mean? Some have different colors and they move erratically. Some stay in one spot. So it's like, is it multiple phenomena that occurs there? Like multiple, in other words, is everybody writing what they see?
I don't know, because for me, it seems like there's different camps. Like some feel it's intelligent, some feel it's not. And the intelligent people are very, very specific about knowing the color.
Yeah.
And then there's that relaxed crowd who thinks something else entirely of the Brown Mountain Lights. They're like, you see them, whatever color. And I'm like, no, because since I'm holding on to some skepticism about them, the orange and the red are really interesting for me because I want to know the weather conditions. I want to know the time of day for those because to me, red and orange, considering the Brown Mountain OHV system, I'm wondering if somebody is illegally trespassing. And I want to know the height and distance because if they're low to the ground or in the tree line, looking at the angles, it could be somebody out there when they're not supposed to be. Or it could just be misidentified as a plane. But when it comes to the white and the blues, that's where I get a little more curious. And I still want to know, what else was going on? So,
Balderdash.
What?
You know what it is.
You
know. Mm-hmm. And you know how to capture them. Hot dog on a stick. Because there's all sorts of different types of sightings and reports that come out of there. It makes it kind of a weird thing. So I understand where you're coming from, but a lot of times, and some of the stuff that we see from the vantage points, it's not hikers and it's not easily explained. Especially when you say, we seen them right here, and you go back the next day, and it's like, wow, there's no way you can hike there. I don't know. And if you go back to legends and lore, lost warrior braves and lost soldiers, lost family, all that sort of thing. So I'm more skeptical about the lights in Texas, the Marfa lights.
Yeah.
Brown Mountain lights, there's something to it. So
now we do have a T-shirt for the Brown Mountain lights.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and put that link in the show notes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We do have some swag for that. If you'd like some swags. I think our buddy John Beals actually bought that shirt. I think it's funny you put it up and then we forgot about it. And then, because you put it up as the place marker and then somebody buys it.
Well, we had...
And then the first request is, do you make this an infant? And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we should. And I probably should have checked it. I didn't see it either. It's weird. But.
Yeah. Well, we've done a couple of local shirts, and one of them has kind of sparked some ire, and it's also been the one that's been very funny to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I kind of got distracted by that shirt.
Is that the fried chicken Bigfoot shirt?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I kind of got distracted by that shirt and totally forgot to announce more or push up more our Brown Mountain Lights shirt.
Yes.
But if you're a listener to the podcast and longtime listener, you kind of know more and more about the Brown Mountain Lights and some of our theories, so you'll definitely appreciate this shirt.
Yeah, and if you're local to it, you understand as well. So anyway, in the podcast, we talk about lots of interesting things, and this is what I alluded to in the beginning with the whole well, somebody said it to somebody else, and it's been like, let me just ignore it until now. One of your friends brought up the whole orcas attacking boats, and I had seen it before and just had never really got into it because I'm like, whatever. Yeah. But it seems to be happening more and more, and it became, kind of popular on the everywhere for a minute. So I'm starting to look into it, and I'm like, all right, there may be a little something to it. So if you don't know what an orca is, it's the killer whale, the black and white killer whale.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're not talking Free Willy here. Remember Free Willy?
Yes.
I'm sure we have listeners that are young enough to not know who Free Willy is. Free Willy was the whale with the floppy tail, or the floppy dorsal fin.
Technically, the killer whale or orca is actually part of the dolphin family.
Well, I can Googleize it too.
I mean...
Yeah, well, technically. But, come on. It's like, easy nerd, I too have Google. No, but it's not the point I'm getting to. You know what? I'm going to play you some orca noise.
Okay.
And these are some sounds that they make. And just so you know, in case you're wondering, these are Creative Commons public domain orca noise. Mm-hmm. That came from the National Park System from the Internet Archive.
Okay. Doing
everything we can here at the CreepGeeks Podcast and not get busted for copyright. So let's go ahead and play it. What? Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So anyway, they do make some noise, of course, and the microphone that's used to record this noise is actually called a hydrophone.
Oh.
It's just basically a microphone that can go underwater, and it's constructed slightly differently and how it can actually record. Now, if you're looking for something that transmits sound or energy in the water, that's called a transducer. So you have basically a hydrophone and a transducer. Hydrophone listens, transducer makes noise.
Okay.
So you can think about, hydrophone being the microphone and transducer being the speaker.
Yeah.
Or transmitter. So anyway, there you go. There's Sonar 101. But the idea that these orcas are actually attacking boats is becoming more and more a thing. And we do know that in general, orcas, which as you said before, relate to the dolphin family, are very intelligent.
Yeah.
I think they have more wrinkles per brain than even the dolphins do. And we consider the dolphins being highly intelligent.
Yeah. Out of all water-based mammals, they have the most wrinkles in their brain.
Yeah,
so.
And if you attribute wrinkles to smarts, then you would say that they're smarter. But we don't really know 100% for sure.
Capacity for intelligence.
Well, we base it off wrinkles, but there's also been smooth-brained people that are intelligent. Yeah. And technically, if you use the wrinkle theory, then they shouldn't be intelligent at all. So it's just kind of like a thing that they're using as a gauge. But so these orcas have been attacking some boats, or what people are saying attacking. And there's a couple different reasons behind it, but they don't really know for sure. So right now it's just speculation. But we should kind of give you an idea. Orcas, when they communicate in their own little pod or their family group, they have their own dialect. So they can speak amongst themselves, close distance and far away, and other orcapods won't know what they're saying because they can't understand them. So it's more than just a dialect per se. It's just like, I'm speaking a language you don't understand.
And they can give names.
Right. And they have identifiers for each person in their clan. That way they know who's talking to them. And it can be done through,
And the weird thing is, like, okay, so like if we were orcas and we were in a room and I say, hey, Greg, only you know Greg.
Right.
The other orcas don't know your name's Greg. They have a different name for you, like whatever.
Like Mr. Greg.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like Mr. Dave, Mr.
Yeah.
Greg. Yeah, so they're intelligent, and that kind of leads to kind of what some people are starting to surmise, that these orcas and these pod collectives or groups, that some of the information that they're being sort of passed on, in other words, learning from other orcas in the same group on how to actually attack boats.
Yeah.
So they're saying it's becoming more of a learned thing. And that's the scary part, because, we understand that information is passed down, and it's just not sort of this gestational information that's passed down like from the womb. The orcas are teaching each other things, and now they're being taught. Somebody is teaching the little orcas and other orcas in their pod groups, hey, do this.
Yeah, it's like they're actually going out to the other pod groups and going, hey, look at this. Look what we've learned.
Yeah, so they're teaching their group and they're kind of passing along the information. So the question really is why? Like, why are orcas attacking, like, boats, or what we're calling attacking boats? Now, there's one group of people, or one side of this, I shouldn't say group, but there's one idea that the orca attacks on boats, they're not out of revenge.
No.
Or, sort of nefarious. They're just having fun. You're like, hey, man, check this out. You can go up there and grab this boat and grab it by the rudder and wiggle it around a little bit and scare the crap out of everybody on board. It's funny.
And these tiny these floppy little human things fly out of it.
Yeah, and they can hear.
Yeah.
Whales and stuff, they can hear. You get close to the surface, it's not like they just can't hear what's happening above them, and, they only hear what's in the water. You can hear. And so since these killer whales have been, like, ramming boats and ripping off rudders in a place around southern Spain.
Yeah.
This article from Yahoo News, if you want to look at that with whatever grain of sea salt you want, they spoke to 3 experts to better understand why the encounters are actually happening. And all the experts agreed that while it may feel like an attack, these orcas just want to play. So they say that these attacks, let's just call them playful encounters, according to this group, right, have been sort of occurring off the coast of Spain and Portugal, and it started around 2020.
Yeah.
Everybody was locked down in 2020. Things are boring.
Yeah, however...
Did they get bored too?
I think that because the oceans were more open or empty, it gave them more time to explore or to familiarize themselves. Because when boats are running in the ocean constantly, I mean, sure, since they are intelligent creatures, they're probably like, oh, I know that sounds like this one thing that has a motor. The motor can hurt me, so I'm not going to explore it. But since we were all locked down, these boats were docked in at docks and whatever, and their motors were off, so they got more curious about them. And now they're like, well, they don't seem that menacing as long as I approach them from this end. Let me play with them now.
Well, considering they are predators,
yeah,
they probably look at it a little bit differently. And I don't think they see us as a threat at all.
Yeah.
I think they see the boats as being, if you get too close, you can get bit kind of a thing. Well, but I mean, who really knows? Because your idea is just as applicable as these other people.
True. And what's bothering me is like, okay, so the new reports are saying, hey, they're playing. But I was trying to figure out, because I found this earlier, like a week or 2 ago, and I was talking about how many attacks there are. And the only one I can find now, as far as a current news article, since the narrative's being changed to, they're just playing, is this older Scientific American article saying that just in 2020 alone, there were 49 instances of orca boat interactions of a, playful or not necessarily playful manner.
Yeah.
So I can only assume that it's ramping up.
Well, yeah. I mean, who really knows for sure? There's instances where, like this. Okay, so they clearly find a lot of enjoyment in these encounters. Mm-hmm. Is what this guy Andrew Treats of Marine Mammal Research Unit at the University of British Columbia in Canada, right? He isn't talking about malicious pleasure.
Yeah,
he's basically just saying that it's kind of can be it's like a brutal encounter. This thing's smashing your boat.
Yeah.
He's moving it around. He's doing stuff, and you're in the boat, and you want to spend less time in the water, more time in the boat. Always, that's kind of a rule. So it can be super crazy, right? Yeah. So he says, they're probably socializing, yucking it up with each other about their adventures, without realizing the terror they're creating in their moments of joy. And if you think about it, I mean, I can kind of see that. It's like, they probably, because they don't. But this guy, he's one of the several orca experts that basically who all agree that the orca's just having a good time, and they probably don't have any ill will against the boats or humans on board. And in the same article, it says this idea flies in the face of a darker theory that orcas are attacking boats because of one traumatized killer whale named White Gladys, who's taking revenge. And the other orcas are imitating her behavior.
Yeah.
Because if she's the boss lady and she's like, screw that boat, and goes over and starts tearing it up or whatever, the other one's like, hey, get it. And then they do the same thing. Yeah. And then they just naturally follow the leader or whatever, say boats are bad, get the rudder.
Yeah.
The rudder's thing, it steers,
So I guess all of this activity was first started being tracked by an organization called GTOA in May 2020. And I think a lot of that overlaps with that White Gladys, with her encounters. Because since May 2020, it looks like there's been a recorded 505 cases of orcas reacting to boats. Sometimes they simply approach the vessel, and only a fraction of those cases, though, involved physical contact. So 49 instances where it's like more intense. And here's the thing. They prefer sailboats or catamarans.
Why is that?
With only a few involving fishing boats, motorboats, and all stuff like that. Probably the reason is the average length of the vessel was 12 meters or 39 feet. For comparison, a full-grown orca is 9.2 meters or 30 feet long. So it's closer to their own size.
I think it's because they're smart enough to know there's no real motor on there.
And it's closer to their own size.
They're smart enough to understand, like, big boats have big propellers. They know that.
Well, if we were to use, like, animal logic, if it's closer in my own size, I can play with it or fight it.
But if you're smart enough, let's just say they have super intelligence compared to the animals we compare them to.
Yeah.
They're definitely smart enough to know it's a slow-moving wooden boat that's easy to move around.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a small wooden boat. These orcas...
Or a fiberglass boat. It's a small boat. It's a small, slow, easy to move around boat.
They're preferring to attack the rudders, sometimes scraping the hull with their teeth. Sometimes they'll snap the rudder, leaving it unable to navigate. But in the end, this play damages these boats so badly that most of them either sink or have to be towed back to port or, to a dock.
They're smart enough to know it's not an animal. They know what they're doing. Yeah. And I think some articles are saying, those guys are just playing around. And then I think some of them are just like, I don't want you around here. Because if you think about 2020 in general, where some of these started, right?
Yeah.
Like this article, basically off Live Science, says orcas have sunk 3 boats in Europe and appear to be teaching others to do the same, and why. Yeah. And that was from, May 18th. But they're the ones that think, with this article, that the traumatized orca initiated the assault on boats after a critical moment of agony. So in other words, this thing got bit by the boat, and now they're attacking the boat.
Or White
And it becomes social learning.
Yeah. Was involved in situations like their researchers are speculating she may have been entangled in a fishing line at some point with the nearest boat looking like these smaller vessels. But at the time, White Gladys was only with 2 of her young offspring and 2 of her sisters during 2020. So did 2 of her offspring or one of her sisters go off to the other pods and teach them the same behavior or same game?
I don't know. Social learning, because they all work together when it comes to feeding and things like that, so it wouldn't be unfamiliar to them to, pass along information.
But, I mean,
so.
most, even intelligent animals, most games or most play has a goal, and usually that goal is to learn something.
Well, all learning is supposed to have a goal.
Yeah.
All gameplay is supposed to have a goal.
So what are their goals?
Show you how to take them out if you need to. At the same time, show you how to be aware of it. Show you how to take down the enemy, the prey, whatever.
Yeah.
How to not be too terribly scared of it. How to be not scared of sailboats, but more scared of big ships and merchant vessels and stuff. Because they use these vessels towards their advantage too, like dolphins do. They can travel the pressure wave that comes along from the boat moving through the water, pulls them along so you can spend less energy. Mm-hmm. They also understand when some smaller boats with kayaks and things like that and places where there's people that feed them food, they're opportunistic feeders. They're not going to necessarily turn away a meal if it's one that they want to eat. They get interactions with humans.
Yeah.
Just like porpoises and dolphins do. Dolphins more so than porpoise. They're smart enough. They know what humans do. If you look throughout time, and you've got like instances of, fishermen or whatever being saved by these animals,
or, fishermen who used to use them to learn where fish were or large schools of fish.
Of course, but I don't know. So in 2020, some of the abnormal interactions began occurring. They belong to a subpopulation living in the Iberian waters, and some of them died, and their deaths can't be directly attributed, to encounters from boats. But if they are smart enough to understand what's going on, you would teach, if you could pass along through social learning, boats are bad. These boats are especially bad. Because the smaller boats, seem to be the ones that are drawing the most interaction. And they also could be, and this is kind of crazy, I thought about this. See, what if they're just practicing to be able to take out bigger boats? They know what kind of boats they can take out, and they know for sure they're not taking out a destroyer, a Coast Guard cutter, or anything like that. They're taking out the smaller ones, the easier ones.
The ones that are closer to their own size.
Well, not necessarily that. The ones that are just basically not full-blown metal and have big giant propellers on them.
Okay.
Do you see them attacking fishing trawlers? You got small fishing boats. You got small clam boats and all that stuff.
Are those common out where these particular
they can be.
creatures swim?
They're not. Okay. These aren't. A lot of these attacks or whatever, and where they're hanging out, are not in the great middle of the ocean type thing. They're along the coast and things like that. So, and they're smart. They play with their food before they eat it. They're ruthless.
Yeah.
And there's places that they travel where they're nestled in the sort of the coastal waters there, like where the deep water is, where they raise their babies and stuff. So, are they doing all this stuff because they're learning protection measures and everything else, or are they just tired of humans? Because if you think about it, right, maybe this is kind of the situation where it's like tourists, like these stupid tourists that go out to like Yellowstone and they go cruising up to a bison and get the picture taken. The bison finally says, like, I've had enough of your mess, and it's just like flicking them in the air and,
another senior
getting on them.
citizen
These are wild animals, and we have all these
bison.
tour boats and stuff that go out to show you the whales and the pods and stuff. Maybe they're just tired of people encroaching on them, and they're like, okay, let me show you how to take these boats out. Let me show you how to immobilize this boat or these boats so they stay away from you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're tired of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe their behavior is akin to the stupid tourists who goof around. Like bisons and stuff, right? They're smart.
I decided to look up recent bison because I know there's another one where an elderly person tried to actually pat one on the head, but unfortunately my Google is a bit off. Instead, it tells me some horrible stuff like Yellowstone tourist sticks crotch inches from wild buffalo's face, and I'm like, that is awful.
People are dumb.
Yeah, it is.
I don't understand why they think that they can just do that sort of thing. And
it's a large wild animal.
But you see it on Instagram. And then usually when you watch videos like that, if they see the video of somebody getting close and take a picture, and you're like, oh, it's terrible. The next video is like some person being flipped in the air, or being gored or stomped on, or these things running. So
yeah,
I don't know. So we're going to kind of keep an eye on the old orca thing. to see if maybe somebody can come up with an answer. Because right now, they don't really know. The positive people are like, oh, they're just goofing around. They're just playing. And the other groups are like, something's happening.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too far of a stretch to start really paying attention to all the animal attacks, because they do go up.
Especially
I think during times of El Nino, all the animal attacks go up. And then we're in an El Nino, if I remember correctly. So I think we've actually talked about the podcast before. We've been doing a podcast for quite a while, and all of our episodes are available anywhere you catch podcasts, and we don't turn them off. So good, bad, or indifferent, you can pretty much catch over 200 episodes of the CreepGeeks Podcast whenever you want.
Oh, yeah.
So,
you're right, because it's a La Nina and El Nino.
El Nino. Yeah.
New Mexico, UNM did a study basically saying it increased the frequency of black bears coming into contact with humans.
Yes. And what did we have cruising up the driveway just not that long ago? A big dog that looked just like a black bear. And then later on, they had left their calling cards, some excrements, some scat.
Yeah.
Some poop. YouTube doesn't like the word poop and pretty much said my video is not eligible for monetization because it contained the word poop.
But it also affects whale entanglements and other things.
Yeah, shark attacks are next. Because when the water changes, like the Gulf Stream changes on the East Coast, and sort of the El Nino or La Nina changes the way the Gulf Stream gets closer to the coast, you get more shark attacks. And I think it's La Nina makes the Gulf Stream go out, away from the coast. You get less shark attacks. I mean, it's not because the water is pushing everything closer to the shore, like sharks, and sharks are angry at humans. It's because it's pushing the food that sharks eat closer to shore. And so the sharks have to be closer to shore to get to something to eat. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we get even more orca attacks because of the same thing, because the fish that they eat and the animals and critters that they eat are going to be closer to shore. Closer to shore is typically closer to humans and whatever. So, but yeah, eventually they'll start talking about it, because they always look at the El Nino and La Nina as like a climatary thing, right? And they'll say, because of climate change,
that's exactly
the whales
what
are attacking.
The top 5 articles said. So.
We've had climate change since the beginning of the Earth's time. It's okay. Guess what? And towards the later months, things start to cool off. You know what that is? Climate change. We used to call them seasons and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, I don't know. It definitely corresponds, I think. Change in weather, Gulf Stream shifts, fish get closer to shore, more animal attacks like shark attacks and stuff like that, more whale attacks, more whale interactions, more marine interactions in general, more storms, all that sort of thing is going to occur.
Shark Week, I guess television-wise, Shark Week usually occurs July, August-ish.
Yeah.
But in reality, the weeks we should be concerned of shark activity worldwide, it may vary depending on where you live, are between August and September.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, it's all good. So, speaking of the story we talked about last podcast, where the family who saw the 10-foot aliens in Vegas and did some shiny eyes and some video.
Yeah.
There's been a slight change.
Okay.
So now there's been a story that's come out that basically says the family who saw the 10-foot aliens with large shiny eyes is now being placed under surveillance.
That's very clickbaity.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
So, and we'll read the article, and this came from themirror.co.uk. So, it's kind of like I don't. So anyway, right. And they say that the Homeland Security Department of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and they put an acronym next to it, LVMPD, right, has set up a surveillance sort of gear equipment at a Nevada property after mysterious objects supposedly fell from the skies. This was around April 30th. And so Las Vegas podcaster Doug Papa, self-confessed skeptic, told the New York Post that the second time he visited the family at the house, he saw the surveillance camera set up there. And he was told by the family that the police had set up the camera, supposedly to protect the family from people coming to bother them about the UFO, like Bob Papa. I'm sorry, Doug Papa.
Yeah.
So he added, but I can tell you right now, cops don't come out and put up expensive video equipment like that. And they certainly wouldn't for someone calling in a report about a UFO. So now he's got to stir the pot. Like, they don't come out and just do that. Why are they really doing that?
Okay.
And that's why I'm like, ooh, let me see, right? So, I don't know. The video, we played part of the video. And so the story basically sort of hit the world news when Channel 8 News got the body cam footage from one of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's body camera footage captured the UFO streaking across the sky. And then on April 30th, the officer's camera recorded an unidentified object, right, around 11:50. And then Angel Gomez was in the backyard of the property with his brother when the UFO was spotted.
Okay.
And on his new YouTube channel, he said it was tall. It was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature. It was gray, had gray-greenish color. And when I looked at it, in the eyes, my body just froze. He had a weird-looking feet and a big face, and big eyes and a big mouth. And that was part of the 911 call we played.
I want to see the kid's YouTube or social media presence and see what he has, because so far I haven't been able to find it. Kind of like I was complaining last time. I couldn't find the original files.
Right. Well, the files that you do find, you're like, this is it? Remember the file I told you about where they drew a picture?
And Doug Papa's 4,393 subscribers. I mean, he's got updates for them that they're watching, but I need just the video clip or the original person. Yeah.
Well, the problem I have with Doug Papa, and I don't know him at all, and I hate to be the guy that judges people using all caps when they post anything online, but I'm kind of judging the person because they're using all caps, right?
Yeah.
Doug Papa, at Doug Papa 1, number 1, is all caps. The video surveillance system with the wireless transmission. It's like, come on, dude. And he's probably the same age as me. I'm in my 50s. I know how to use not caps. Why is he yelling? But what he does say is a video camera surveillance system with a wireless transmission link that I recorded at the home on May 9th must have been a mirage or a figment of my imagination if the Las Vegas Metro Police are to be believed. Nice install, task in his technical and surveillance squad. And basically he shows a picture that he captured, which looks like some video cameras on a light pole kind of action going on. So, and he reported the presence of two mysterious entities in his backyard, object falling from the sky, 8-foot person inside this. So basically, I don't know. So 39 minutes later, when they were making that call, by the man residing, I can't even talk, man. So anyway, remember how when they said that they seen the thing and they were worried, scared, and they called in, right? Yeah. Well, the police responding to the call were visibly shaken by the bizarre circumstances, as revealed by the audio captured from their body cameras. And I kind of want the audio to get a legit copy of the audio.
Yeah, there's some transcripts available, which are they're very interesting because at one point, one of the police officers responds, yeah, my partner saw it too. We want to know what's up as well, And I'm like, that's some very credible statements there. I'd love the actual audio. And this article says, it was only 39 minutes after this alleged meteor.
Yeah, big flash in the sky.
That this family made this call.
Yeah, aliens in the backyard.
Yeah. So I'm like, something's going on.
Yeah, like he said, one of the police officers said, I'm so nervous right now. He's talking to his partner, and he's like his other, and almost, I have butterflies, saw a shooting star, and now people say there's aliens in their backyard.
But it kind of feels like with this alien stuff, and in some instances in the past with paranormal stuff, you have this, I'm going to say something horrible, like a gatekeeping layer preventing you from accessing what you want to know.
Well, of course. And it exists for two things. When it's definitely a fake.
Yeah.
You can't find anything legit, right? You just find stuff that's been passed around. Or if there's the possibility that something may be for real. Same thing. Can't find it.
Yeah.
You can find all the garbage in the middle, though.
Like this article.
But, yeah, don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea that they're under surveillance, when you read that, it makes it sound like the family is under surveillance, and that you're like, okay, they're keeping an eye on the family, and they very well may be.
Yeah, the headline makes me feel like, oh, the Las Vegas police want to observe the family.
Right.
But now I'm like, okay, this looks like just a security camera on a light pole in their neighborhood. It's to monitor all activity.
It could be.
Which is actually kind of typical in some places in the Southwest.
I mean, yeah, they can set up these cameras and they can connect via Wi-Fi and they have microphones and stuff. I mean, they have all that surveillance type stuff, microphones that basically listen for shotgun. And, I mean, is it coincidental? I don't know. Did they put it up because they're worried for the family at the same time they want to kind of keep an eye on things? It's Vegas. Yeah. Maybe that department has, they want to get out there and be proactive.
I mean,
who knows,
I know for some reason, like when we lived in New Mexico, certain areas and certain neighborhoods got, upgraded, or patches or fixes were made in batches per neighborhood. Yeah. This could be complete, like, coincidence, So, or it could, align with the fact that, well, maybe the meteor actually damaged a different security camera, like street safety camera.
Maybe it's been there the whole time.
So, yeah.
I mean, because if the encounter occurred at night, unless you're back during the day looking for that kind of thing, I mean, I don't know. There's also cell phone towers painted like pine trees in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a weird thing. Who knows? We'll kind of keep an eye on it and see. Speaking of keep an eye on it, we need to keep an eye on this. This was kind of creepy. I don't like it.
I don't like this. I don't even want to do this.
Well, we're going to do it anyway because we got to tell people we have a responsibility. So, since I was kind of cruising around the British newspapers of, of sterling reputation, right? I read this. This is from dailymail.com. Scientists create a model human embryo with its very own heartbeat that could spill secrets about the first weeks of life. So a model human embryo with a heartbeat and traces of blood has been created by scientists in a move that could offer insights into the first week of life. It replicates some of the cells and the structures that would usually appear in the third or fourth weeks of pregnancy, and despite the heartbeat, the structure does not have the tissues that go on to form the placenta and yolk sac in a normal embryo. And the emphasis, okay. I'd like to emphasize that these are neither embryos nor are we trying to make embryos, said Dr. Jitesh, I think it's Nupani, from the University of Cambridge's Gurdon Institute. All right, so here's my thing. They're not trying to do that. Who's to say they can't do that? Is this how you create replicants or synthetic humans? If you don't even need, like, the synthetic structure was created from human stem cells without the need for eggs, sperm, or fertilization. Is this how they're making clones?
Is this how Blade Runner starts?
Yes. Is this how Blade Runner starts, or even the whole alien thing when you had like the
Prometheus?
Well, I'm trying to think of the name of the synthetic people. What do they call them? Bio, whatever. Like the robots, like the synthetic android type things. The ones that have white blood in them, like milk. It's weird.
Oh God.
I can't think of what they're called. They have a name anyway. But yeah, the idea that, okay, so they're creating a heartbeat, and that's cool and all, but if they're doing this, right, what's to stop them from doing any more? And who's to say this hasn't already been done before and is currently being done in other places? To what degree?
Yeah.
And is this going to be able to eventually take us to the point where they can create a modern day version of an ancient legend? This is a question I'm posing to Omi.
I'm trying to look up. You lost me because I was trying to. You got me on what are the androids and alien called? And now I'm stuck on that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's just call them replicants or whatever, because allegedly the Blade Runner world
or synthetics.
The replicants in the Blade Runner world are related to the robot. Same thing in the Alien universe thing, right? Because Ridley Scott. But so if they can basically create, let's just say a synthetic humanoid, right?
Yeah.
There's another way you can create a sort of a humanoid to do your bidding using like mud and other stuff.
A golem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this like the modern day golem that you can create?
Golem. Yeah.
Golem, whatever. Don't connect. Don't you, La Nino. You want some of that?
Yeah. I mean,
of course it is.
It
If you could basically make your own person or robot monster man, synthetic, whatever, you create troops and do whatever you want. I'm sure if we looked, there's an X-Files episode on this. 100%. Because to me, you know how The Simpsons predict the future?
Yeah.
X-Files predicts the future. And you can say Chris Carter was well researched.
Yeah.
Maybe he's really a plant from the governments. You know what I mean? Because everything X-Files has ever done an episode on is what everybody talks about now. People act like it doesn't, like that show doesn't exist.
Fun
when you're
fact.
older, you're like in your 50s, you know, you're like, yeah, of course I've heard of that. I watched an X-Files episode. I know X-Files is a TV show, but you know, by golly, it sounds pretty close to what's happening now.
Fun fact, Chris Carter has written for The Simpsons. And
I'm telling you, we're on
he
something.
puts Simpsons Easter eggs in some of the old X-Files.
What a nerd. But yeah,
I think it's brilliant. So
it is brilliant.
yeah.
Well, he's the time traveler, because you know, like they say that the Simpsons, you know, some time traveler came back and showed him all this stuff. Maybe it's him. Maybe he's time traveling disclosure man, ultra nerd. So I thought it was kind of crazy. I don't like the idea that. Okay, so when there was an argument against stem cell research, it was because of things like this. What are you going to do? What can you make the stem cells do? And eventually turned to the point where it's like, well, the good outweighs the weirdness of creating synthetic life, or basically using it to, I don't know, play God or something.
I mean, and that's the problem right there. We are essentially, this instance is an example of intelligent design.
Yes.
Granted, the higher end intelligence is us humans.
That's not saying a whole lot.
I know. So that's the shocking thing right there. And
Yeah.
I'm not.
Because who's going to adhere to the rules?
Nobody.
Right. And that's the entire problem. And like right now with artificial intelligence being as scary as it could be, there's been many, many scary movies about it, sci-fi, whatever, written in books and stuff. And it will happen. I mean, it makes sense. It will happen. And we're not even worried about it.
I'm worried
Who's
about
paying attention to the rules? And what makes somebody follow the rules when it comes to this thing? If you can make a heartbeat synthetically that you created without any sort of fertilization and eggs and everything it takes to do that, who's to say you can't just take stem cells and make the rest of it?
I mean, I want to know how, without stem cells, that this thing had its own intelligence or was molded into being capable of.
No, it had stem cells, but like, how did the stem cells know to make it do that?
Yeah.
I think it's where you take them from and what chemical you put in there to give it a job.
Yeah.
Like, your job is to make a heartbeat. And guess what? It did. What if your job is to create, you know, I don't know,
I think its job
some
has
kind
been
of
to
biological weapon?
close on my browser every single time we've tried to talk about it for the past, 5 minutes.
What?
This article keeps closing on me. And I'm just, trying to catch up, and I'm just like, come on.
I use the power of an ad blocker.
Yeah, so I had to.
I don't know why it's closing, but
I think that's going back with previous recent episodes, AI taking over, and it's like, oh, you don't want to let the 30 ads on this to show, then we're not going to show you this article. We're just.
I like how people think that, oh yeah, man, they're listening right now. It's like nobody's listening.
Crash your.
This is how I think a lot of people are sort of confused on how things work when it comes to disclosure and information. And do you hold on to it or do you public?
Yeah.
They think, oh, they're listening. And you picture some dude in a van with another dude complaining about crappy coffee with a big antenna pointed towards your house. That's not it at all.
Yeah.
It's computers, man. They don't need a person. They just basically run algorithms. See, algorithms that do things, right, is what essentially AI is. And so the algorithm term has been switched over to AI. And anybody who creates videos on YouTube that puts a video out and it doesn't do anything at all blames the algorithm.
Yeah.
That's the AI. Anybody that gets popped on copyright use on any social media platform blames the AI or blames the algorithm, and it's the AI. I mean, come on, you think we don't have programs like Echelon or whatever that just basically listens to every single thing out there, and then the AI or algorithm picks it out and says they're talking about this? I think if it gets to the personal part where you actually see people, then you got to be worried. Except for in the 50s when you see like Men in Black or whatever. Because they didn't have the algorithm. And now they do. They can just sit in an office and listen to you.
That's the difference is like...
You hear dumb stuff like your phone is listening even with no battery, no SIM card, and turned off, and they can still hear you. It's like, how?
Yeah.
How can they do that? They can break physics if there's no power supply? Come on, get out of here.
Yeah. I'm sitting here with 5 Zenny eyeglass frame ads on one article. And I'm just
Well, you've been looking for new glasses for like an hour and a half, 3 hours?
I know, but 7
What do you think's going to happen?
7 ads is a bit overkill.
Those cookies.
The algorithm, the basic
the
algorithm.
cookies are delicious.
The basic algorithm that can create a heartbeat also can create 7 eyeglass ads.
I don't necessarily think it's the same thing, but the idea behind it is probably the same.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. And I also don't know what to think about this as we're getting ready to cruise into wrapping up the podcast. I thought I'd give you guys a cucumber sandwich secret. And as I said before, going through some of these amazing British news sites, this came up, and I'm like, well, let me look at it. I like cucumber sandwiches. They're kind of weird. You have them every once in a while, right? I like tomato sandwiches.
Yeah.
And evidently, this is supposed to be some kind of like secret. And I like secrets, right? Like food hacks and secrets and stuff. I don't really do any of them, but I like to know about them just in case, right?
Yeah.
Here's the recipe for this secret cucumber sandwich.
Okay.
It's white bread, buttered. Just stop making this stupid face. Come on. This is important.
I'm listening.
This is very important because you're going to have to recreate this one day.
Okay.
We could have did it yesterday, but I forgot we had cucumbers and they just died at the bottom of the refrigerator, So you butter your white bread with butter, not like some weird stuff. Okay. Then you put sliced cucumbers on there. Hence the name cucumber sandwich, right? But here's the secret. Put a little bit of mint on it.
Oh, my.
And then you put some black pepper.
Gosh.
And I'm probably going to put a little salt. Because you got to have cucumbers, like black pepper and salt, right?
Mint.
It's supposed to have mint.
Butter.
Well, yeah, it's a sandwich. You're buttering the bread.
Ugh.
There's a lot of countries that don't believe in mayonnaise. And you're sitting there, you have never had one of these sandwiches in your entire life. So how dare you? You put soy sauce on eggs, you weirdo.
That is delicious.
That is disgusting.
So is hot sauce.
Disgusting. That's the orcas coming.
Okay, you enjoy
hot sauce, yes.
Your bland butter and mint cucumber.
That's the orcas telling the other
sandwich.
orcas that you eat soy sauce on
I'll
eggs.
do cucumber mint water. That sounds
That is
delightful.
disgusting. Why would you want to drink a bunch of water?
Why would I want to eat mint? Tasty
why don't you just
mint.
wave a bag of cucumbers and mint at your water? It's the same thing.
They literally put a bunch of things that are great by themselves and said, these will be great together.
The Queen used to like that, and she's royalty.
Oh, look what happened.
Why would you say that? She lived like, 88 years or something, 90 years?
Yes, because she didn't
You know
have
why? Because
any-
she's eating cucumber sandwiches.
No.
And let's see what's going to happen here. We're both probably not even going to make it near that far because we're eating soy sauce on eggs and dumb stuff. That seems like a light meal. And you got to cut the crust off and be fancy about it. So the next time you're planning your paranormal get together and you want to kick it up a notch, make them some cucumber sandwiches. Show them what's up. You're going to try this and you're going to love it.
Nope.
Yeah, you will.
I have seen cucumber cream cheese sandwiches.
Because that's the same.
I mean, I'm not big.
You ever
on
had a
it.
hand sandwich?
You mean like Metallica did?
No, Metallica isn't the first one to create that. None of those guys are that smart. Everybody made hand
the
sandwiches. You couldn't get bread. You had like a piece of bologna and you just eat it by itself.
So that was the first time I ever heard about
Hand
it.
sandwich.
I read it in an article, and I was like, oh. But no, I mean, I didn't even consider cucumber sandwiches or even tomato sandwiches till I was an adult, and somebody else showed me.
You ever had like a watercress sandwich? You ever been to a tea party?
No.
Have you ever even seen one on TV?
Yes.
This is the kind of stuff they have there.
Okay.
It's supposed to be delicious. You watch a British baking show, and you're complaining about this.
I'll put soy sauce on watercress because you can put watercress in stir fry, and it's delicious.
You can put anything in stir fry. So you're not helping. Eat your cucumber sandwich.
No.
Guess what's going to be delivered from Walmart's? That's right, cucumbers and mint.
Oh, man. We have mint in the yard.
Well, I don't know what it looks like. I'm not eating crap unless I know what it looks like. I have enough stuff to worry about and say, oh, look at this delicious thing I picked out of the yard. Hope it's mint.
We have
Can
mint.
you imagine eating a bunch of poison sumac or something because you think it's mint? We've been watching enough like Rescue 911 shows or whatever to know. And we're not, come on.
We know where this mint came from. A lovely friend of the podcast let me dig up some of hers, and now it's growing in our yard.
Mm-hmm.
So
She told you it was mint.
yes, and
But
I
does
trust
she really
her.
know? Does anybody really know?
I'm gonna tell her that.
Every time I think about stuff like that, it's like there's been a couple different ads and things I've seen where somebody hands somebody something from the yard, and the guy just starts eating it, and he's like, "Yeah, man, check it out. I didn't know we had this. Don't eat that. It's poison." And the guy's like, spitting it out. He's like, "Why would you hand it to me?" The guy's like, "Why would you eat it?" See?
And this mint is so wonderful. Like, you can smell it walking up. It's great. It's good mint. We don't need mint from Walmart. We have mint at home.
We have mint at home. That's funny. Man, we don't need Burger King. We got Burger King at home. We don't need no mint. We got mint at home. You need a salad? Go get some dandelions. Dandelion salad.
I'm not eating a cucumber bland sandwich.
You don't even know until you tried it, so how dare you just slam it like that without even trying it? Mm-mm. That's just, you know what? Okay. You're going to try it. You're going to love it.
Oh, and at the end of this article, they've got a survey.
A survey for what? How delicious is it? Yes or no? Is that what it? Come on. All right, well, here's the deal. I'm done talking to you.
Okay, sure.
I think it's time to wrap up the podcast.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Show notes for everything we talk about are available with each podcast episode. Again, check us out on social media. We are on all major platforms. Real easy. CreepGeeks Podcast or CreepGeeks Pod, and you'll find us.
Yes.
Yep.
So, anyway, there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. But tune in again. We'll be back next week with another episode from the CreepGeeks Podcast. And by then, it'll be Season 7, Episode 282. If you're keeping track, you can write that on your calendar if you want. You can do whatever you want. So anyway, if you have ate a cucumber sandwich, a delicious cucumber sandwich with a little bit of mint, and you think it's amazing, send Omi an email. All right, so see you later. Take it easy. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shake on a hardwood boulder, and it's getting cold now, but the fields need the work. Oh, she can take my heart if she wants it. She's all I can love with it anyway, even though she'll never stay. And I'll be standing here with empty hands and an open field. Won't you please bring it back to me? She can take my heart.